Supplementary. The member from Kenora-Rainy River.
Thank you, Speaker. My question is to the Premier. Speaker, access to clean, drinkable water is a systemic issue in the province of Ontario. If you are an Indigenous person living on a First Nations reserve. For more than a week, Weagamow First Nation, a community in my riding north of Sioux Lookout, has gone without drinkable, usable water. The aging water mains have burst. They've got staff working with what they've got to fix it. I'm sure the Premier will tell the House that it's federal jurisdiction, their responsibility, but surely abdicating the province's role will not sit well for the more than 800 people who are without usable water. My question is simple. What is your government doing to aid the situation?
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And I completely agree with the member opposite that it is unacceptable that anyone in Ontario would not have clean, drinkable water. And I understand that it is absolutely critical that this be addressed. And as recently as yesterday, Mr. Speaker, the Minister of Indigenous Relations and I had a conversation with Regional Chief Day and with Grand Chief Alvin Fiddler and with Grand Chief Patrick Madavi, Mr. Speaker. We are part of a tripartite process. The federal government, First Nations and the provincial government are working together, Mr. Speaker, because each party, each level order of government brings something different to the table. The provincial government has expertise, has capacity, Mr. Speaker. There's funding that comes from the federal government, and First Nations have community knowledge. So, Mr. Speaker, we are absolutely working to make sure that all of these systems are being worked on.
Supplementary.
Thank you, Speaker. The provincial government is responsible for First Nations health through its responsibility for education. No clean water and sewage means no school. Children and elders are developing skin rash breakouts just like they did in Saskatchewan. There are over 80 First Nation communities, mostly northern, mostly remote, in this province that do not have access to clean water. For some communities, it has been decades. That number wouldn't stand in any other community in this province. The Premier met with her federal counterparts at the privatization conference here in Toronto yesterday. My question is simple. What did she ask them about the situation in the Weagamow?
Minister of Indigenous Relations and Reconciliation.
Mr. Speaker, I'm happy to respond to this question.
Member, we'll wait until I acknowledge, please. Carry on.
Thank you, Speaker. Here are some things that we're actually doing to alleviate the problem. The Ontario Clean Water Energy Act is providing operations and maintenance services on a fee-for-basis service. The Walkerton Clean Water Centre provides operator training. The Ministry of the Environment and Climate Change has provided engineering and technical advice to First Nations and carries out conformance reviews of proposals for First Nation water systems upon request. First Nations are included in showcasing water innovation programs in which Ontario is funding innovative, cost-effective solutions for managing drinking water, wastewater and stormwater sewers. The Canada-Ontario First Nations Drinking Water Improvement Initiative is a partnership with four small First Nation communities to provide innovative solutions. The Clean Water Act